like just now when we did the poll, right? So we find by default, most women will prefer vaginal delivery. A few of you have mentioned that you prefer a cesarean section. Most of the time when moms want cesarean section is usually because they're very scared of the idea of labor itself. If you tell me it's pain, then usually there's epidural as a solution during labor, because the pain that you get from cesarean section after the cesarean section is I think more than a vaginal delivery, okay, and the recovery period definitely takes longer. But there are some cases where you may have to have a cesarean section, like for example, if your placenta is lying too low, it blocks the way out, then you need to, because otherwise there'll be very heavy bleeding if you try. If your baby is lying in a breech position, the buttocks are down. If the baby is way too big for your pelvis, sometimes in very preterm babies, we have to do, because the preterm baby might not be able to take the labor stress, so a cesarean section might be safer. But there are cases when you are planning for a normal delivery, you go into labor, and then halfway through you end up with cesarean section. These are usually when in these cases it's because either the baby is distressed and you're not near 10 cm yet, and in that instance it's safer for the baby to be delivered via cesarean section, or in most cases the labor doesn't seem to be progressing well. Means after hours, right, you find that it's still stuck at say 4 cm, the next review is still 4 cm, you know. In those instances, you know that it's probably because the pelvis could be too tight, the space is too tight for the baby, and therefore it won't be able to come through, and the cesarean section might be safer. Okay, so you see the pelvis, so in those cases that it can't come through, why? Now, when you see our body is here, this is the outside part, but this is not the whole space that we have. The pelvic cavity is only this much, okay? And sometimes it's also the shape of it. The pelvic inlet can be of different shapes. Some people very narrow and flat. Then in those cases, it can actually, it's actually called pelvis that's not made for childbirth lah, because it's too narrow, okay? Or manly pelvis. A nice round kind are those that are very good for pelvis. So of course, we don't know what kind of pelvic shape we have, okay? And it could also be the fact that the way the baby is tilting the head is different. So you find that some cases the Caesar is done and the baby is not even big, not even 3.5 or anything, just 2 point something only, right? And then it ends up with Caesar. Why? Because it could also be the way the head's lying. So, you know, like I said, the space there is snug or tight, just enough, right? It's not like this huge space where the baby can just fall through. So they have to fit in very nicely. Sometimes if the head does this, see, it tilts out a little bit, or it tilts out this way. With the contraction, there are times where it can correct its position. But as the contraction goes along, if the baby's head just get more and more stuck to this side, then you know it's not going to progress. That's why I say with time, if you find that the cervix just stalls, that's how we tell that it may not change because of all these reasons. Also, sometimes the way the head is tilted, when it looks up this way and it doesn't correct itself. Okay, so these are some of the cases why the baby may not be big, but yet it can't get through the mother's pelvis. Now, for cesarean section, of course, it has to be done in the operating theatre, and most times we tend to suggest regional, which means either making use of the epidural that you already have, or if you don't have anything, we tend to use a spinal so that you are awake, so it's an injection in the spine, because that's a safer mode of delivery. If that is not possible, it doesn't work, or if you're very, very terrified, or sometimes it's something that we need to do really very quickly. Let's say there's severe bleeding, very heavy bleeding, and or the baby's heartbeat is crashing very low, and we may not have time to do the spinal, then a GA, because it's faster, then we may have to do it under GA, okay? The moment we start the Caesar, actually very fast, in 5-10 minutes, the baby will be out already. Once the baby is out, usually you feel a little bit less anxious, okay? The hospital stay is just about a day or two longer. The whole process of Caesar probably takes about an hour. The first day, you will not be able to move around very much, but subsequently, we do expect you to move around. Okay, so in terms of mobilization and all that, I would say that for cesarean section, it's a little bit slower compared to vaginal delivery.